Good morning, everyone, wherever you are around the world. Welcome to Finals Day here at Pro Tour Born of the Gods in Valencia, Spain. Rich Hagon here at the news desk, sitting alongside two fabulous bits of talent. On my left, the Pro Tour historian, Mr. Brian David Marshall, and on his left, Pro Tour Hall of Famer, Mr. Luis Scott Vargas. Gentlemen, welcome to what could be a historic day BDM in the history of Magic.
Yeah, I mean, this is, we have 7 players in this top 8 looking, at their first, steps onto the Sunday stage. Li Tian, of course, has been here before. But, I mean, we have someone who, Anssi Alkio playing in his first Pro Tour. He could win a Pro Tour on his debut.
Oh, no, he's played a few Anssi.
Oh, really? I was just told backstage that it was his first.
Oh, no.
Oh.
No, Anssi's been around.
Someone's going to be scolded. Someone's going to be taken out behind the commentary booth and shot.
No, I have this as his 4th Pro Tour. Okay. First Pro Tour top 8, though, very much so.
Okay.
So he is in our first quarterfinal. Why don't we take a look at the bracket and show you what's coming your way? Because we are going to show you every turn of every match live as it happens. So here is the bracket. The 1 v the 8 seed is Sean McLaren against Tim Rivera. That's blue-white-red for McLaren against blue-white-red twin for Rivera. Christian Seibold is up against Patrick Dickman. Dickman is on Tarmo Twin. Christian Seibold on Affinity. The bottom half of the bracket, Li Chan is against Anssi Alkio. Li Chan is on the Blue Moon deck. More of that in a minute. Against Anssi Alkio with Blue-Red Twin. And then Jacob Wilson against Chris Fennell. Well, for that, you've got Wilson on Malirapod and Chris Fennell on Storm. Luis, let me ask you, which of those 4 are you most looking forward to seeing?
I'm looking forward to seeing the Wilson-Fennell match. Jacob Wilson's like a local California player, and it's pretty awesome seeing him, get the success that I guess we've all predicted since since he started winning tournaments.
Is he Shahar 2.0?
Yeah, something like that. Northern California is the breeding ground for future superstars.
And he's still only 18 years of age with his 3 Grand Prix top 8s and a title from Chicago in 2012.
Yeah, incredibly just self-possessed, like just very, when you think of an 18-year-old Magic player, you think of somebody who's just kind of like all knees and elbows and all over the place, but he is like just centered and calm at all times while he's playing Magic. At least, I mean, you may have seen the wilder side of him on the local Magic community. But
no, he's mostly just like that.
Yep. All right, let me set the stage for you in terms of what's coming your way through the quarterfinals. We will begin with Li Chan against Anssi Alkio. Then it will be Wilson Fennell. Then McLaren Rivera. And finally, Patrick Dickman, the modern master, against Christian Seibold of Germany, the all-German clash, to round off our quarterfinals. So, gents, let's get into our first quarterfinal. It's Li Chan up against Anssi Alkio. So why don't we look, first of all, at the career resume of Mr. Li Chan. So let's take a look at his resume if we can. Here we go. From Hong Kong, he's on Team MTG Mint. He's 26 years old and a gold level pro. For those of you thinking, what does gold mean? That means he's at the 2nd highest tier of Pro Magic. Lots of financial benefits for being there. It means he's been very successful over the last 12, 18 months, 116 lifetime pro points. And BDM, it's fair to say that in terms of experience, this is the gold standard in this top 8.
Absolutely. Not only is he the only person with a previous top 8 at the Pro Tour in this who's still playing in this tournament. His last Pro Tour top 8 came in the modern format. Mm-hmm. And in fact, in that Pro Tour, he watched Ken Yukihiro playing a deck that became the template for the deck his team played that put 7 of 8 players into day 2 at this event.
Yeah, so a return to Ravnica was his first Pro Tour top 8, and he was the winner of Grand Prix Birmingham in 2008. Let's see how he made it to the top 8 here. 16 rounds. Here's his record. The first 3 rounds you see on the left are in draft. The first 3 rounds on day 2, rounds 9, 10, and 11 are in draft.
Wait a minute. All of his draws didn't come with the Blue Moon deck? He got one in limited too?
Yeah, he did. So, Luis, who stands out there in terms of opponents there?
Looks like he played against Micron in round 3, Atron, the winner of Pro Tour Geneva. And Atron is one of the one of the best limited players who's ever played, and he moved to Curacao a number of years ago, so he hasn't played in as many Pro Tours. But it is pretty impressive seeing him. Looks like battle to a draw against him.
Yeah, a win against Kai Buddha and then Ben Stark. That's a heck of an end to day one, BDM.
Yeah.
Buddha,
Yes.
Stark, and Hunt.
Yeah, absolutely. And then it really doesn't get much easier for him on day two. Hetrick was that was a battle for the King of the Hill seat.
That's
to
right.
start off day two. It has to play against Christian Sabold, Matthias Hunt again. Sean McLaren picks up his second draw, and then you just see it's like littered with his path was littered with top 8 competitors or people who were still at the top tables, obviously. So it's just a very, very tough road to the top 8 for him.
Okay, so that's Li Shi-chan. Why don't we look at his opponent in the quarterfinals? It's Anssi Alkio of Finland. Let's take a look at his resume. Luis, what do you see there?
The fact that he's only played in 4 Pro Tours and already has a top 8 is impressive. I mean, there are not very many people who make top 8 to begin with, and to do so quickly. It was something like 11 or 12 Pro Tours in before I made top 8, if not more, and it is a big accomplishment.
Are you actually going to turn down the opportunity to talk about the words "almost finished"? You really are.
That is a great team name, I have to admit.
Yeah, I think we all agree on that. But I mean, he hasn't shown any signs of being finished at all, and especially when he's playing constructed, because he hasn't lost in constructed yet.
Yeah.
Draft was really his. I mean, when we can look at his road to get here. You'll see draft was where he fell apart. And in constructed, he was the only undefeated player in all of Modern.
And in addition to that, it looks like he's playing in the Magic Online Championships next month, which is also awesome. I mean, that is as close as you can get to a Pro Tour without being a Pro Tour or Worlds.
Yeah, and there are some fantastic players who've made the leap from the online world. You look at Florian Pils, for example, of Germany, who was...
How about this guy?
This guy?
How about this guy?
I mean, there wasn't a Magic Online Championship when I played, but
Sure.
I did play a lot of Magic Online.
I mean, when you started playing on the Pro Tour, when you won the qualify for the national team, you were known primarily as a Magic Online player at that point.
Yeah, that is where I kind of had networked and known a lot of people who played on the Pro Tour even before I'd ever set foot.
Yeah, and that really, I think a lot of people view that as a template. When we first started seeing Brad Nelson come aboard, it was kind of like, oh, he's the next LSV. I mean, Raptor as well. I mean, we still call him Raptor.
Reed Duke.
Yeah, Reed Duke. Exactly. It's Magic Online has been the stepping stone for a lot of great players over the last few years.
And later today, we'll be discussing Sean McLaren, of course.
Of course.
Mr. Arsenal Munch from Magic Online.
I definitely recognize that name. I didn't know that was him.
Yeah,
it's an anagram of Sean McLaren.
Ah, gotcha.
Yeah, nothing to do with the Gunners. Sorry, Techniques, and didn't want to disappoint you there. Why don't we see how Anssi made it here to the top 8. So draft again, top left, draft again, top right. And as you can see, well, he made it tough for himself.
He started out 0-2. That's crazy. He lost to Todd Anderson, Daniel Sondijk, and then started rattling off wins.
Yep, but only 3-3 in limited overall, which meant he had essentially to be undefeated in Modern. The only way he could make it to his 12 wins was just by utterly annihilating everyone.
Yeah, until that last round where he could draw with Chris Fennell into the top 8.
And Luis, I'm sure you're thrilled with his end of day one.
Yeah, I was just looking at that. Beating both Martin Yuza and David Ochoa from my team.
Yeah, thanks so much for that. It was quite interesting. We got to the last round and we weren't sure, gents, whether there was going to be an issue of players playing their last round for seed because it's best 2 out of 3 today. But the way it worked out, you see the draw with Chris Fennell in the final round. Well, they were stacked so that basically if they played, one of them might well have missed out. And so they just shook hands and went, yeah, thanks very much. I'll have the ID.
I would like this thing that I've wanted all of my, teenage and adult life, a Pro Tour top 8. Yes, I'll take it.
Okay, let's get to the decks then. So why don't we look at Li Shi-chan. He has brought this deck along, and no singing allowed. That's in the contract. But this is Blue Moon.
Yeah, this was, I think, the breakout deck of the tournament. I think of all the decks we were expecting to see, we had a list of more than 25 different archetypes that we expected to show up in this wide open Modern format that has over 8,000 cards in it and 45 card sets. But it was the MTG Mint guys who showed up with Blue Moon, and really, kind of like the old next level blue deck, but with Blood Moon instead of Tarmogoyf. Would that be an easy way to describe it?
I mean, yeah. Anytime someone says Teferi and the Master of Waves, I'm in. So.
Right. It was certainly a very titillating list for a lot of people.
Yeah. Even synergies like Spreading Seas plus Master of Waves is like the little things like that add up.
Well, and also Blood Moon plus Spreading Seas.
Exactly.
Because so you'd see a lot of times where he'd play the deck, he'd get that early Blood Moon out, his opponent would be like, oh, come on, I need a basic land, and they'd get a forest, and they'd play the forest and they'd cast something and he'd remand it and then he'd untap and he'd Spreading Seas their one forest and just like break their back. We talked to him about his deck on a deck tech, and he described his hand that, where he knew he was going to win into the top 8 because he had those 2 early draws. So he had to win in the last round, and he looked at his hand and he saw the ideal hand. He's like, when I get this hand, this is my combo. This is how I win. Lightning Bolt, Blood Moon, Remand, 3 lands. 7th card doesn't matter. I don't care what the 7th card is. If that's my opening hand, I am going to win the game. Although I don't know if that's true in this case.
Yeah. The fact that he is playing against a deck that doesn't particularly care about Blood Moon, I mean, some weird draws aside, is a big problem. I mean, that is one of the weaknesses of a Blood Moon-based deck, is you crutch pretty hard on Blood Moon.
Let's show you some pretty pictures. Why don't we show you the sideboard for Li Shi-Chan? Here it comes. So there you see a couple of Spreading Seas, a Teferi Major Zalfir. I love that legendary creature. Negate, Vandal Blast, Vendilion Click, and then along the bottom there, you've got your Combust, your Counterflux, your Anger of the Gods, and Flame Slash. All right, so that's what we're looking at in terms of sideboard for Li Shi-Chan. That's what he'll have to work with in Game 2 and maybe Game 3, but not 4 or 5. There will not be best of 5s. Don't miss a thing. Best 2 out of 3 quarters in the semi-finals. Let's shift across to Finland. Let's shift across to Anssi Alkio and take a look at his main deck. Luis, why don't you talk us through what's going on here?
This is the straight-up blue-red twin deck, which kind of just tries to combo Deceiver, Exarch, Pestermite, and then with Kiki Jiki or Splinter Twin. It actually cut a lot of the aggressive elements that some of these decks play, like Grim Lavamancer, for example, and it is more of a full-on combo version. And the cards that aren't combo cards are either protection, like Dispel, Spell Snare, Spell Skite, Izzet Charm, burn spells like Lightning Bolt and Electrolyze, or search spells like Serum Visions, even Cryptic Command and Remand kind of let you cycle through your deck. So it's really just looking to combo. I mean, it can win games off attacking with Snapcasters and Deceiver Exarchs and whatnot, but that's a lot less likely than the other versions of the deck.
Yeah, and this version is based off of the list Patrick Dickman used to win GP Antwerp, correct?
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I mean, the main difference...
The Lavamancers swapped in and out.
Is now that Wild Nicoddle's, the cat's out of the bag, Grim Lavamancer's not as good as it used to be.
Right.
So I think that was a wise move taking those out.
But you referred to Dickman as a modern master. I mean, theoretically, he has 3 decks in this top 8, or can at least, have said he licked his thumb and, kind of smeared it across 3 of these decks.
Yeah, so this is the base of which he wins there.
Yeah.
The second is obviously his own Tarmo Twin, which we'll look at later. What's the third?
His opponent's deck in the quarterfinals.
Oh, really? Christian Sable?
Christian Sable Affinity deck is a deck that he built and had kind of like, well, this is maybe what I'll play if I don't think Twin is a good choice this weekend. You could play Affinity. I'm going to play Twin. And now he's got to play against that Affinity deck in the quarterfinals.
And the actual physical copy.
And the actual physical cards.
Yeah. 2 sets out of the rucksack. There we go. All right, so why don't we look at the sideboard?
Did you just call him a rucksack?
I did not call him a rucksack. So let's move on. Threads of Loyalty. 3 Ancient Grudge. Yeah, he does like Affinity. Dispel. Grim Lavamancer. 2 Blood Moon.
And the Blood Moons there tells you he doesn't care about the Blood Moons in Li
Most decks that have Blood Moon in their sideboard aren't particularly worried about Blood Moon.
One would hope.
Yeah.
One would hope. And then you got a couple of Batterskull, Relic of Progenitors, and Flame Sash. Yesterday, BDM, there was quite a lot of entertainment in the booth about copies of Batterskull that were in decks that, you just got to 5 mana and then you cast a Batterskull. Because turns out people do that these days.
Don't actually have a creature to equip it to, just gonna get in there with Batterskull.
Yeah. It's one of the best cards against Zoo. I mean, the fact that you can play Batterskull, they have to kill it, and especially when they have lightning bolts and that sort of thing ready, it is pretty effective.
You've already said that Blood Moon is not that big an issue for Anssi, which makes perfect sense. Luis, give us a sense of what we should be watching out for as this match unfolds. Who has the edge and why?
So I actually do like Ansi's chances, both pre and post board. I mean, Lee does have the advantage of being able to play a Vidalcan Shackles. In game 1, Vidalcan Shackles is really, really effective. Ansi can't go off with a Vidalcan Shackles and play unless he's got a Spell Skite. But even then, a Spell Skite can then redirect the Splinter Twin, so that doesn't actually work out all that well. But post board, Ansi gets to board in Ancient Grudge for Shackles, Dispel, and then Lee gets to board in Counterflux and Combust and some Vendilion clicks. Overall, the fact that the Twin has a much easier, cleaner kill is, I think, the biggest difference. The blue-red deck that Lee's playing can't kill very quickly. It's looking at Batterskull and Master of Waves, both of which are expensive sorceries.
Right.
You can't really tap out against Twin and expect that to go well.
Is Teferi a big card for that matchup?
Oh, it certainly is. I mean, when Teferi's in play, it forces Ansi to play his Deceivers and Pestermites on his main phase. It means he can't have Counterspell backup. If a Teferi sticks, I would imagine Lee's going to win the game.
Okay.
I want to ask you, BDM, we're going to see a very different setup in the feature match area than we're used to at this time on a Sunday morning. I was out there last night and I just thought, yeah, I'm going to live the dream just for a minute. I'm going to sit in the chair.
Sure.
And I sat at the feature table, even in the dark, alone, without X $1,000 on the line. You felt it. It is no ordinary table. It is no ordinary environment.
I think if this top 8 was populated with Channel Fireballers and Pantheoners and people who've been there, if you have oh my gosh, this top 8 has 11 previous top 8s in it, and et cetera. It might be a little.
You mean just Kai or something?
Yeah, just Kai. It's a little different to sit there alone, but I think for people playing in their first top 8 and knowing that every play is going to be on camera, I think that there's an added level of pressure that these players are going to be feeling, and they are out on an island by themselves, much like both of these players.
Well, the pressure cooker is about to start the boiling process. It's time for the first quarterfinal of Pro Tour Born of the Gods.
Guys, welcome to the booth here at Pro Tour Born of the Gods. Marshall Sutcliffe with Zach Hill and Randy Buehler. We're going to be bringing you the quarterfinals. We're going to be running them one into the next, best 2 out of 3 this time, and they are ready to go right now. We have Ansi Alkio versus Li Shitian in the feature match area. Let's get this Sunday underway right now.